So here we are on the start line. It's one of those VR team time trials. A bit of a mixed team tonight for us. A few first teamers, a few second teamers, and a newbie in Martin Brown. He sticks on there, sticks because he's a drummer. That's me at the back, trying to catch up and get back on the six. This very much is about getting the first three over the line in a good time, so we're not expecting every rider to make the finish in the group, but everybody can contribute as much as possible on the way, and the strongest riders will actually finish it off. And we'll, as I say, we'll see. We're very open-minded, as I say. Myself and Bhavesh Mistry not expecting to finish with the stronger riders, very much Team 2 players, but with all these TTT things, you have to get 6 riders all available on the same night, and 2 of our riders were available on the next night that we would have put in this team but couldn't do tonight, and Bhavesh and myself making up the 6. So in tonight's lineup we have Stu Thorne, who's probably going to be the key rider in this. He's with Tobias Bjork from Sweden, of course, you can see the Swedish flag, and Rafa Nunes with the Ecuadorian flag. Rafa, good friend of mine, currently lives in Basingstoke, but from Ecuador, as his Spanish sounding name would suggest. Now, we're expecting those 3 riders to be first over the line, but Martin Brown's just joined us for the first time today, so we'll see how well Martin does. And so Bhavesh and myself will make up the numbers and see how long we can stay on. Now this route is fairly flat, and if you look along the bottom you'll see the green line. There's a couple of places where it goes very slightly orange and there's a gradient of just over 2%. If you're going at full pelt, that might just take somebody who's on the limit already just over the edge, but that's not really what we call a steep climb, so we should be able to keep everybody together for most of the ride, and that's certainly the aim. And you can see here it's not a bad line, it's not a perfect line. It's not as easy to keep a perfect line on these virtual races as it might be in real life, where you've got completely out of control of your steering and speed, but there's a little bit of overlap, and we would expect that in our teams, but that's not a bad line, and that's fairly efficient for what we want to do. So 43 kph, very slightly downhill at the moment, so it's not excessively fast, but a decent speed all the same. You can see there's sort of something approaching a line there, so that's quite pleasing as we head towards 2 kilometres out of the 18 or 17 and a half that we've got to do today. So as I say, it's going to be flat, it's not going to be that exciting. Remember too that RGT does brake on the corners, so apart from the uphills, when you go around a corner it's very easy just to sort of drift off the pace if you over brake, and you don't have much control about it over this. And as we can see here, you go around there and you can see the number in the top left hand corner went red, and that shows that the rider that the camera is following is actually putting out more watts than they need, because the braking effect, you see it just went red there again. It will do that if you're sitting behind somebody in the draft and pedaling harder than you need to because of the draft, and it will do that if you pedal too hard around a corner and it's braking, so your excess pedaling is not registering because the braking effect of the software is kicking in. So it's wasted energy if it goes red. I mean, I would observe from personal experience, however, that I think if you're going around a corner, sometimes you might just go into the red, but it's worth keeping the momentum going. So it's not always a kind of waste of effort in my view. It depends how much and how long the red lasts. So looking at this, basically the way this worked, we were taking turns on the front. It was loosely based around 30 seconds, but some riders are stronger than others, and I think that all the teams that do this will probably tell you the same thing, that basically the stronger riders will end up doing longer turns on the front. But you see, not a bad line again here. We've still got we've got 5 of the 6 riders still in the group there. Bhavesh at this point had actually his chain came off, unfortunately, so you can see he's about 400 metres behind. And that is the right thing to do. You don't give up, you get back on, because just imagine if a couple of us had some sort of mechanicals or techanicals as we call them, so particularly dropouts for example, you do keep riding even if you're off the back, because you, as I say, if somebody else breaks down, you might be needed to be the third rider. And get another one of these sharp bends where the braking kicks in, and you can see the power at the top, right, dropping down to 160 there, going up to 470, and that bend's just caught me out, and I have to put a bit of effort in now to get back onto the group. And you can expend a lot of effort doing that sort of thing, and it's almost wasted effort. You can see it goes red there as we go around the bend again. And as I say, you can expend a lot of effort just catching up to get back on the draft and to tire yourself out. And this will happen to weaker riders, as I can tell you from personal experience. But still, 5 of us in there as we go to 3.5 kilometres, and the line fairly tidy. Nobody shooting off, pinging off. People aren't dropping off too much, like that little bit I had there where I just broke off a little bit. Tobias Bjork just fallen off a little bit there. He'll be expending some energy to get back on about 10 kilometres now to make the catch. And here he comes. Now that will expend energy, and that means he's riding faster than the person in front and doing 41 kph at the moment, and he will have had to do more than that to get back on the bunch, and he really will want to sit at the back of the group now and just get his legs back before doing another turn on the front. But back in, 5 riders still, so that's quite neat and tidy, about a quarter of the way through this time trial, which, as I say, is reasonably flat. A couple of little climbs, which at full pelt might feel harder than they actually are. But again, this is quite neat. Something approaching a line there. It's not perfect. It doesn't look like a professional World Tour team in a very neat line, of course, but it's not bad. We get another one of these bends, and it just sort of breaks it up a little bit. The rhythm can upset 1 or 2 riders and can get a bit ragged, but that's actually stayed together quite well on that bend, so that's not a bad sign. A reminder that you're watching West London VR Racing here, and not such a line there, as again these the little bends are just sort of bunching everybody up and destroying that sort of line effect. Now everybody is communicating over Discord, and everybody knows when the person on the front is going to drop off. It's well communicated, the team, all 5 of us, or 6 of us indeed. Bavesh just dropping off a little bit there, down to 600 metres, and it's you can see, I mean, he's putting in more effort than, let's say, Rafa in 3rd position. But Rafa's sitting in the draft, whereas Bavesh, of course, is having to work very hard on his own. Once you fall off, it can be very hard work, and you watch the gap between you and everybody else just get bigger and bigger and bigger. So again, still quite tidy here, and that's Martin Sticks there, the drummer, and he's just pulling back on. Now Martin is making his debut. He hasn't done an RGT TTT before, and I think this is exemplary. This is absolutely superb for a first timer staying in the group. So he understands what he's got to do, and he's grasping the RGT dynamics very quickly. As you go around another one of these sharp bends, everybody holds together quite well. That's good. You can drop off on one of those bends if you're not very careful. So you can see Rafa on the front pushing out some very high watts at the moment. If you look on the left hand side, you can tell that Tobias and Stuart now are taking turns on the front there. You can, when you do a catch up, you can overshoot a little bit and go on the front momentarily, and it's up to everybody to communicate and decide whether you're actually going to go on the front or whether that's just a little blip and you'll let the person who's taking the front spot carry on. Stu here was very much team captain on this ride, and it was kind of mainly his encouragement and team talking, if you like, that kept everything going. Now just here I'm struggling a little bit. I've lost something like 7 or 8 kilometers there. Now I've got to get back on, and we are going slightly uphill, and I suddenly, having to work that extra bit and ride faster than everybody else, suddenly found it hard going to get back on. So this was a bit of an effort to get back on. I remember Stu saying to me, am I all right? But I knew I was going to get back on. Got up to Tobias now, and there's at least 2 of us. I'm going to take a little bit of a rest on his wheel, and then hopefully we can work together to get back on. But Tobias takes me back up to the group anyway. So we're going to regroup, and I think Stu took the pace off the front a little bit just to let us to regroup there, to get all 5 of us back together. And as I say, it's very slightly uphill there, and is beginning to take a toll, and when you have to work hard to chase on and it's up a hill, this takes a lot out of you. Remember that it's the equivalent of doing a turn on the front to all intents and purposes. So there's a little bit of batteries, a little bit of sort of what the professionals call burnt matches there for me and Tobias with that little catch up, probably more him than me. And Tobias just falling off the back a little bit again there, just gets out of the saddle, pushes himself back on. Stuart Thorne setting the pace at the front here as we hit 6.5 kilometres, 10 to go, more like 11 actually. So it's we're past a third of the course here, and you can see just between the letters at the bottom of your screen, you'll see there is a white blob. That's where we are. The big white blob. It's between the words time and trial at the moment at the bottom of your screen. Now, once again, I'm falling off here, and the gradient's gone up to 2%. Now, 2% is not a hard gradient, and nobody's particularly riding that fast, because if you look at the speed at the top right hand corner, it's under 30k ph. But I have dropped off. I've now lost 30 metres, and the group's down to 4. Stuart's asking at this point, am I going to get back on? I don't think I'm going to make 30-40 metres back on in a solo effort, and basically the decision is made at this point. 7 kilometres done, that the 4 are going to go on as a 4, and like Bhavesh at the back, I will keep on riding, because if somebody breaks down, if somebody gets a power cut, they could be down to 3 or maybe even 2 riders, and myself or Bhavesh might actually have to be the 3rd rider across the line. Now remember, it is the time of the 3rd rider across the line that counts, so it is not worth any fast riders pulling off the front and going solo. It's really about getting your 3rd fastest rider across the line at the best possible speed you can, or in time. Now a little bit of a U-turn there as we go behind the banner, which was unfortunately placed. And just a reminder, you're watching West London VR's recording of this as we get back onto the straight. Now, this is quite an interesting course. You'll see on the right of your screen in the middle, it says RGT. Now, that's actually a map of the course. So it's very, very cleverly done. James Ogilvy has gone and mapped out a course that, using certain roads, has spelled out the words RGT. So the little blue blob is where we're right on that course. So you can see we're not quite halfway around. It's about halfway around the G, if you assume that, which is probably incorrect, that R, G and T are all about equal distances. I expect the R is slightly longer than the T, for example, but I think about halfway around the G should be about halfway around the course. We've done 8 and we've got 9.5 to go. So we're on the middle letter. So maybe we've done more than I think in terms of getting around the RGT course. But as I say, that RGT written at the side is actually a map of the course. You can see the little blue blob going up the G. Now these 4 are staying together quite nicely here. It's not a bad little showing. I'm very, very pleased. And Sticks, Martin Brown there, is doing very, very well from Plymouth, in the very west of Britain, about as far west as you can go. Well, not actually where his house is, but you can go a bit further west than Plymouth, but it's heading towards the end of the country, shall we say. Only Cornwall between it and the end of Britain. So we've got a line-up here, Tobias from Sweden, as we say, Rafa, the Ecuadorian, from Ecuador, of course, but living in Basingstoke in Hampshire, southwest of London, and just west of London, Stuart Thorne from Chalfont, as they go through the halfway banner. So at 8.8 they go through the halfway banner. They've done 13.5 minutes now, so they're on course for a sort of it's probably 14 minutes, isn't it? On course for maybe 27 minutes here. Now I rode this myself just before this race, which is probably a mistake because I probably burnt myself out a little bit and hence struggled to get back on. I hit around 27 minutes, so I would like to think that they can probably beat 27 minutes. I certainly wish I'd stayed on, because I think I would have sat quite happily in this group of 4 and made it 5, which would have made it better for everybody. But they're down to 4, which means it's not quite as efficient as if they had 5, but doing very well anyway. They've got a slight gradient 1.2, but still hitting 37 36-37 kph on this uphill section. You can see, if you look at the letters at the bottom where it says TTT, just under there it goes orange. That's probably the steepest bit of the course. It goes up to about 2.4%, although it carries on rising after that little orange section, and then you get quite a downhill to the finish. It's not entirely downhill, but most of it is. If you go around one of these bends and they stay together quite well, that's good. Although Rafa just pulling away a little bit too fast at the front. Stuart Thorne and Martin Brown just having to fight to get back on. Stuart hopefully towing Martin back on, and it gets into a nice neat line, and that's a money shot photo, isn't it? Of what a line should look like. That was quite nice actually. And Tobias just pulling up to take a turn on the front, taking over from Rafa. Stuart moving up, Rafa moving back to the back of the line to take the benefit of the draft as they go into the last 7.5 kilometres. Another one of these tight bends as we go around the lettering. You can see we're going around the top of that G now with a couple of bends as the bit hanging down from the top of the G goes into shape. This is nice because when you're actually riding, you see where the bends are coming up, because you just look over at the RGT thing, see where the blue blob is. We're about to go back up the G any minute now, and there's the bend that you'd expect. Again, taking that very, very neatly, stayed together quite well. Of course, there is there's some compromise in the sense that you, if you do everything too fast, if the guy on the front goes too fast, you'll lose people. If you go, if you try to keep it together too much, then you find you might be going a little bit too slow, and therefore, keeping the group neat, but not actually forcing everybody to do top speed. This isn't bad. I mean, they're probably going a little bit slower than they might expect. They would hope to be hitting around 40, I would have thought, on this section. And it's nudging up as they're beginning to get that down at the benefit of a little bit of a downhill here at 39 kph and 42, 43. That's what you'd expect on this sort of terrain at this moment. And as they're heading towards 6.7 kilometres to go, they've nearly done 11 already. So they're really on that sort of just coming up to that steepest bit of the course. I mean, it's not steep, but a full pelt 2.4% can make a difference, certainly if you're trying to keep everything together, and that's the key to this. You need the third person over the line. Stuart Thorne Sticks, Martin Brown just taking it over, pushing out a beat. I should have rehearsed beat jokes, shouldn't I, and rhythm jokes, because Sticks is because he's a drummer. So there's lots of rhythm and beat jokes that could be used, which has only just occurred to me, so I'm a bit slow on the uptake. We're coming up the inside of the G here. You can see the next bend as we go around the bottom of the G here. As I say, it's quite a sweeping one, this one, because it's the bottom sweeping bit of the G, which is not as tight a bend as we've seen. But again, they're tightly together. This is good riding. I mean, pushing out 3.5 to 4 watts generally on the front as they go through a little crowd of people that Wahoo RGT have allowed us to put into these races these days to make it a little bit more atmospheric, and very good job too. Congratulations to James Vickers and everybody else involved in that. I'm sure James probably didn't do it, and I'm congratulating the wrong bloke, but I'm sure he oversaw it in some manner, shape or form, or at least can pass my thanks and gratitude on to the people who really did it. Now, Stu's pulled off a little bit at the front here. This is a little bit untidy. It's kind of a waste of effort for both Stu going off at the front and then people catching him. So I'm sure that Stu probably just eased off to let people through, and Martin Brown just overshooting a little bit on the front because it's not his turn at the front, as we go around the next bit and we go sharply up the bottom of the G. And of course we'll go around 2 sharp bends any moment now as we go around that little bit of the bottom of the G that turns it from a C into a G. Stu Sticks on the front again. Martin's put in a sterling performance. I mean, for a debutant, we have to say that Martin was a great addition to the team, and great to have him on board here. Just about to go through 2 bends, of course, as we go around the lower part of that G. There's the first one across the top of the bit that sticks up at the bottom of the G. I'm sure there's technical words for bits that stick up from the bottom of the G, but I don't know them. I probably need to speak to some graphic artist who could tell me all about that. as they come away tightly again. This is great riding. Very pleased for them to keep it this tight all the way through. It isn't too ragged at all, and when you've got a new member in the team as well, this is great news. And we have quite a few of our riders missing. Some of our stronger riders are not here tonight for various reasons. Getting all 6 to be available on the same night is a perennial problem for all the teams, not just us, and some weeks it'll work for you and some weeks it'll work against you. Nice line again as Tobias just goes onto the back of that line, and again, look at it, neatly lined up. Tobias just getting on the side of Martin a little bit as we go round the bottom of the G. Now heading up to the T, so we're in the last part of the course. 4.5 kilometres to go, just the T to navigate here. Mainly straight. I mean, there's some tight bends as you go around the top of the T, but some big long straights up and down the T, of course, and across the top. So not too many bends to slow everything down. 41 kph, which is kind of what you might expect on these sorts of terrains. It all slows down. Look at the slowdown. Lost 4 kph just going around that turn, because RGT will automatically brake you, unlike other platformers in orange which don't. And you've got to build that speed up again. But they've got a big long straight here, so they're heading up to the 41, 42 level at the moment, which is what they want. They're quite neatly packed, not too many gaps between the riders. As Stu Sticks takes another turn on the front. I mean, he said afterwards that he didn't think he did enough turns on the front, and yet I seem to be commentating about him being on the front quite a lot. So I'm sure if you play this back enough times, you can work out who did the most on the front. But I think Martin Sticks Brown put in more than his fair share here. Stu probably taking the lion's share. Tobias, though, takes it up, the Swede, on the front, riding very, very neatly in front now. Rafa just coming up, maybe going to overshoot. No, Rafa gets that just right, stays just off and tucks in behind. Stu goes alongside Martin. It's not the most efficient to have a bunch like that, but it's still good. Everybody's still getting some benefit of the draft, even if it's not perfect. Tobias just getting a little bit of a gap there, 40 kph, just straining everybody. They're certainly on the sort of easiest bit of the course now. It's mainly downhill, but you still get these things. You see here now, drops down to 37 kph as soon as they go around that bend, the braking effect. Tobias still on the front. Is Stuart going to take over? Stu taking over on the front now, putting a bit of power down. Martin and Rafa just dropping off a little bit. They'll have to catch up. They do. As they come to another bend, this is going to break and it will slow them down. Stu just... There's a little bit of gap, there's a little bit of raggedness there as Stu gets around that bend faster than everybody else. But will they pull it back together? I'm sure they will. Stu won't let that gap stay there. He'll either slow down, or if the others are feeling strong, they'll be saying, don't worry, we'll catch up. There's 3 of them working together, so obviously Tobias sitting behind the other 2 getting the benefit as they pull it back together at 44 kph. Now they've got the benefit of a slight downhill here. They are heading towards the finish, only 2.8 kilometres to go. This is not going to be too testing in terms of gradients between here and the finish, so it's basically if they can keep it tidy and keep the speed up, that will be good. They're under 40 kph at the moment, though. That's not really where they want to be with the target of beating 27. They're on 23 minutes with 2.6 kilometres to go. They are probably on course to get under 27, but we'll have to see by how much. Again, we've got Sticks on the front, Stu taking a little turn too, and Tobias following through. Sticks goes onto the back sensibly, getting the benefit of the draft as they go through another bend, and you can see the outputs on the top right left hand corner went red again as they went round that bend. Stu Thorne tucking in behind Tobias now. Rafa in 3rd position. Sticks, Martin Brown in 4th, just sitting on there taking the draft. Another corner, and the Watts in the top left hand corner go red again as the braking effect means they're expending more than they need to. As I say, I don't personally think that it's wasted energy on one of those tight bends, because it's momentary and actually you'll come out with huge momentum. But here's another tight bend, and we see the output at the top left go red again as it happens. But they're under 2 kilometres to go now. It's all about working hard together as a team, -2.7. It flattens out towards the end though. They've got the benefit of the downhill at the moment as they hit speeds of around 50 kph, which is great. It's going to build up some time here. Most of the teams will get the benefit of this, so it's as fantastic as it is to be doing 50 kph. Every team's riding the same course, so every team will make the most of this little section. It does flatten out again though in a minute. 53 kph, so it's decent speed as they race towards the finish. Just coming up to 25 minutes with 1.4 kilometers to go. They are probably going to get under 27, but not by a lot, I would guess at the moment. 25 minutes has now passed with 1.27 kilometers to go. Let's see what they can do. If they're riding 40, it's going to take over a minute, so it's going to be 26 something at the end as they come up to the last bend. Now, the last bend as it goes around, you can see on the right there's a big cliff there. It'd be fantastic to, I'll have to ask James how he did that. I've got an idea how you can make it cliff like that. I did it once myself by accident. I wonder if he did it the same way. We go round this last bend, but you'll see the cliffs in the scenery now take hold, and it's almost like going up one of those gorges. It's got those big cliffs on the right. There's a couple on the left here and there. It's one that looks like a pyramid near the end, as I recall from riding it earlier. You can see these sharp cliffs on the right. As I say, I've got a feeling I know how James might have done that, but I'll have to ask him when I see him. Now then, we're under a kilometre to go, 26.04, so will they get under 27 with 500 metres to go? They should, but it'll be tight the gradient is absolutely zero, but I think you come off that fast downhill at 50 kph and you suddenly drop into sort of 41, 42 on that last stretch, looking at those meters counting down, kind of 350 meters to go, and suddenly you're having to work a bit harder than you were a moment ago, and it suddenly seems hard, but they need to stay together. They mustn't get ragged. You've got to pedal really, really hard to make the most of this last little section, but you mustn't lose more than one rider if you've got four of you, because it's the third rider that counts. You can see the end there now, coming up to the last 100 meters. Stu putting a bit of a push on the front, Tobias and Stu pushing out on front, Rafa in there as well as they come over the line. 26.52, and as I said, under 27. We'll have to see how the other teams do. Certainly we didn't have our strongest lineup tonight. Lost two riders reasonably early on, but that wasn't entirely unanticipated. So I think everybody will have enjoyed the workout and another great race and a great course from OTR, James Ogilvy, and Love TTT Time Trial Series. See you later.